Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Justice and Peace's guest speaker series. Today, we are joined by Martyna. Martyna, first of all, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Martyna Majewska. I am a Polish lawyer and attorney at law, associated with Warsaw Bar for Attorneys at Law. I have still active practice in Poland. I'm practicing in Poland. And I'm also a fresh paralegal here in Ontario. And I'm also an ACA candidate as internationally trained lawyer who would like to practice in Canada as well. So this is my short background. I don't know if I should elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, let's go on piece by piece there. Okay. So, you have a background in practicing law in Poland now for, I think 20 plus years. So maybe you could tell us a bit about what it is to practice as a lawyer in Poland. Maybe tell us a little bit about the system in place and kind of the different areas you've done and are doing in terms of your practice today.
So as you said, I started my career 20 years plus already because I accomplished my university degree in Szczecin on the northern Poland in 1998. And then I decided to take the first apprenticeship, and I became a bailiff or equivalent of bailiff in Poland. I was practicing a little bit, and then I was working as a in-house. And then I decided that I need a little bit extra excitement, and I decided to take the bar exam and become an attorney at law. And I managed to pass this exam. It's a little bit different than in Canada. Because in Canada, we have an open book test exam, and it takes few hours, yes, to take it. And bar exam in Poland looks a little bit more challenging because during 4 days, you have to pass 5 exams. So you are spending 6 or 8 hours per day taking the exam from criminal law, civil law, and so on, so on, so on. So it's a little bit more challenging, but it's also open, so that helps. There are 2 different systems. I was educated and shaped as a lawyer in the continental administrating of law. So it's quite different. We have a different dynamic at the court. The role of the judge is a little bit different, and in Canada, the role of a lawyer is a little bit different than in Canada, especially if you are a litigation lawyer. But, the way we are acting at the court in Europe, in Poland, is quite different to the Canadian common law system. Maybe it's not so dynamic, I would say. Maybe it's not so movie-like, but it's still challenging. So that's my background. I was practicing mainly civil law and family law, a little bit of employment law. So when I came here, I decided, okay, so I'm starting something fresh, something new, but it would be good to continue. And that's how I started thinking about becoming a lawyer here. And I had to, because I came here just before the COVID started, I have to change all my plans because we have this 13 months of COVID break, I would say, and then the backlog. So I just couldn't receive my documents. I couldn't start anything without my permanent residency. And that's why I had a lot of time to revise all of my plans and to decide. That was the moment when I decided, okay, so maybe I will start with the paralegal courses because it was something new and it was an avenue I wanted to try. And it was a very good choice, I have to say.
Yeah. So before we get maybe into the paralegal program and going through that, what to know, you mentioned family law and employment law. I mean, maybe what are some kind of, you said it's very different systems, obviously civil law, common law, but in terms of maybe some of the things that are in family law in Poland or in employment law in Poland versus some of the stuff that, you've studied or come across here in Canada. I mean, anything that you can highlight for anyone listening or would be interested in some key differences between the systems or in particular those areas?
So let's start with family law. I have to say that comparing Canadian and Polish system is still very conservative. So we still approach the problem through the rights of the parents, not the child. The child is not in the center of the procedure. The Canadian system is the opposite. Here, the child is in the middle of interest of everyone. Yeah, we just what's the best for the child? It's the starting point in the case. We should always take into account what's the best for the child. In Poland, it's a little bit different approach. We are trying to change it, but still, this maybe it's because we are still use the family code from 60s of 20th century. It is a huge development since that time. And here, family law is so dynamic. It's so, it's completely different approach. Like, if you try to find similarities and differences, you won't find many. Like, for example, here is no fault divorce. Yes, and it's so simple. You just have no fault divorce. So many bad emotions, they are taken out of the table. We can deal it with the specialist, with the therapist, with the psychologist. We don't have to, as a lawyer, we don't have to deal with that. And in Poland, a fault divorce based on fault is still an issue. Like, people, they have this feeling that they have to go through entire process, and it is emotional training, and it's very difficult. And sometimes fighting for this, it's not my fault, it's your fault. It's very difficult. So lawyers have to try to persuade that, like, fighting for this is not worth, because you will lose a much more, because you will invest a lot of money, invest a lot of energy, invest a lot of time, invest a lot of emotions. And at the end of the process, you will have this piece of paper, but you won't be happy. So I think that this decision made in Canada, okay, we are not dealing with the fault, we're just trying to help people to dissolve the marriage, is the better solution.
So yeah, so it's nice there, obviously, to have that perspective, right? And you were talking about now coming into, and let's start with the paralegal program that you took. How did you find kind of having that background, and maybe talk about that decision to start with the paralegal program? I think again, there are lots of internationally trained lawyers that come over here, right? And they're like, well, what am I going to do in Canada? I'd like to still be able to practice law in some capacity. And then I think maybe very unique. I mean, certainly it is in terms of paralegals, right? I mean, I don't know if you have an equivalent word in Poland, right? But when people hear that, they often think of like legal assistants, law clerks, and they're surprised. Even Canadians, right? Even high school students, when they realize that they can go in and a year from now they can have a law practice. What sort of how did you kind of stumble upon that, and when did you realize that if you become a paralegal you can advocate and essentially do a lot of things that a lawyer can traditionally in other countries and even here in Canada?
So in Polish system there is no such a concept, there is no such a position as paralegal here in Ontario. So we don't have the position that gives the opportunity to person after the university or after the college to take the practical exam and start the small practice. There is no such a thing. So I was very happy to find out during this COVID time. I was very happy to find out that there is such an option, and paralegals can practice in Ontario. And I thought to myself, wow, I will still have to wait a little bit to go through the NCA process because it takes time and it was a backlog. So why not to try? Just give yourself a chance. And I would like to say something about the most common misconception that that a lawyer from a different country taking a paralegal course is a few steps back in a career. It's not. It's not. First, it gives you the better understanding of the system. Secondly, it's highly practical. So you do understand the system and you know how it works. And if you observe, for example, tribunals, hearings, you just catching the things that you are discussing during your lectures. So it's not wasting the time, not waste of time. It's not, downgrade as some people think. It still gives you a time to prepare, an opportunity to practice. It was my case. It was after a year of intense course, I was able to take the exam, pass it, and I can practice. I can go to small claims court. I can, have my own clients. I'm not losing anything. What is more important, if you want to follow your career and you want to get accredited by the NCA and enter the university, you still have an opportunity to work. So you can go to work as a paralegal. You can work as a legal assistant even. You know how to do things. So you have some kind of assets that you didn't think you have them. Not only have your experience, your knowledge, your training from your home country, languages, because we do speak at least 2 languages, if not many more, like 3, 4, depends on the country you're coming from. You have a practical knowledge, you have the license, you can be notary public, you can be a mediator. So you have so many assets that you can bring to the law office or to the law firm that, how you can say that you are starting from zero, how you can say that you are starting below your level. It's not. For me, it was an opportunity, and I decided to pursue this option, and I'm very happy that I took it. And I'm very happy. I'm very happy right now being at the university and having this background, because you do understand better the topic you are discussing on the academic level, and you know how it works. You are discussing the institution, and you know how it works. You know how to do law immediately.
Yeah, so maybe you could expand a little bit more there in terms of, again, having this background. You came, you enrolled in the paralegal program, at Trios, and what it was like, again, given what you've done, going back to school. I mean, I think your entire program, well, actually not the entire program. I mean, most of it, because I think we came out of the pandemic till we have a few classes in person, but going through all that and then kind of learning about Canadian law, right? And you mentioned some of the differences you've encountered in some of the areas, but what was that like? What was that experience like for you, and what could you share for others? Whether they're coming from Poland or coming from other countries, and as you said, you're not going back to zero, but it's sometimes this anxiety or this feeling of I've been practicing law for 10 years and 20 years, and now I'm going to school in Canada to get this education to give me an opportunity to get a license to practice in some areas, all the while perhaps thinking about the NCA process that like to go through eventually, and then become able to or accredited then to write the barrister and solicitor exams and become licensed as a lawyer here in Ontario. So what can you kind of share from how that experience was like, and advice for others to go into that journey?
The very first thing was the different way of studying. I was, European universities, they are very traditional. Till my bar exam, I didn't know the open book exam concept because we didn't have it at the university. So you had to study hard. You have to memorize a lot, and then you took exam, and you knew or you didn't. So the open book exam is something new and something really interesting, because you know that you have a source and you have to think about the solution. You have to think about the question. So it develops your ability to think in a logical way. So this is the very first advantage. The beginnings were difficult because we had this online courses. So all these teams, all logging to the student apps and student portals and navigating everything and learning. That was challenging. And I have to say the program is really intense. So you have to make up your mind if you want to study or just, you are passing your time. So we had this program designed that each part was designed for like 10 days, I believe. And we had 2 exams and tests and Kahoots and other form of challenges during the lectures and lectures with Sahana. So it was really, really intense. It requires a lot of self-discipline. You just can't miss things, or you cannot think that, okay, I will just pick some topics and that will be okay. It won't be okay, because if you miss something, you're not able to to follow with other things. So this intensity was something really challenging, as I said, but it was something really good because it kept me studying, kept me thinking, kept me busy with the law. And I improved my language skills as well, because we had a lot of interactions, a lot of discussions, a lot of presentations, a lot of written papers and assignments. So it helped. It helped me to immerse in the law, immerse in the language, to understand how Canadian law works and to appreciate the clarity of a system. Maybe it sounds a little bit weird for the person who never dealt with the federal and the provincial court system, but yeah, the system is clear. The system is clear, especially when you go to the court, you are going to the tribunal, and everything is clear and concise. There is no space for frills, I would say, legal frills. You have to stay focused. You know what to do, and you should do it really in a simple and efficient way. So that's my experience with the paralegal course. And of course, I had the best lecturers and JP and Sahana, so it helped a lot.
Well, thank you for that. And I guess on that point, you brought up about open book exams, and that's, for a lot of international students, right, from many different countries, that's something unique, right, in terms of, before you'd have to kind of memorize or understand concepts and have it in your head, and then remember them on a test day or on a bar exam or wherever. But now, I mean, you're opened up to different types of testing where the material is there for you to find, but can you apply it, or can you think critically and answer the questions and in a limited time period? So what can you share for anyone kind of also making that transition now? They're starting into a program and they're not used to testing in that environment, or maybe even not used to group mock trials or sort of hands-on, as you said, interaction, and getting more acclimatized to a different system than they may have had in their home country.
There is a huge value in this method, like because you mentioned critical thinking. That's the key to understanding how the system works and what's your role. If you want to develop disability, if you want practice, it will be very hard for you to be successful. It doesn't matter if you know the statute by the heart. It can change anytime. And that's my European, that's my Polish experience. Sometimes law changes so fast that it's unbelievable. Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense to memorize the statute, to memorize something without understanding. If you don't understand the institute, how one concept works, you won't apply it in real life. If you won't apply it in real life, you have a problem as a lawyer, because you have a tool, but you don't know how to use it. So if you are at the paralegal course, I strongly recommend you to take part in a mock trials. Be a person who is actively taking a part in assignments. If you prepare something just in a group, just do it with the group, because you will be working with a group. It's very hard to be a single lawyer. It's almost impossible because you need somebody to talk, to discuss, to find a different approach. There are so many ways to the same point. And sometimes, a question from your colleague will shift your approach, and you will understand it. I can do it easier. It doesn't have to be like this. I can do, instead of ABC, I can do ABB, and it will be also fine. And who knows, maybe it will be faster, more efficient. It will cost my client less. So, working with a team, being responsible for your part, and developing the skill of critical thinking, this is what matters the most right now, especially when you're starting here in Canada, because it will be the part of your work when you will when you will be admitted to the law firm, to any, if the lawyer would like to work with you. That's the way you will be working. That's also practicing. And this is practicing in a safe environment, because you will always have a teammate next to you who will help you. And I'm deeply grateful to my colleagues from the course. I've learned from them a lot.
Now, Martina, after you finish the program, obviously the next step then is to go in and prepare to write the licensing exam. And certainly there's steps in getting all set up and registered, and then obviously getting your materials and preparing to write the exam. And again, another open book exam, 160 questions over 4.5 hours. Again, different from what you described as 6 days of bar exams in Poland.
Oh, yeah.
So how is it different in terms of preparing for them, going through them, writing them? I mean, again, anyone that kind of takes a similar journey now, I mean, there's exams in November coming up, there's exams in February of next year. I mean, anytime somebody may stumble upon this talk, they may be getting ready to write the licensing exam. So anything you can share from your experience that really worked for you? Any tips and tricks there for anyone just starting or thinking about writing that exam sometime soon?
So maybe I will repeat myself. If you have somebody to study with, that's already fantastic start, because you can share the work, you can do the things together, and you have a person you can discuss the problems with. The one thing that I really found interesting is this the material distributed by the ELSO, because none of my exams had this kind of support, I would say. In Poland, I was told, okay, it's an open book exam. You can take your code, you can take the commentary, you can take the book, you can take your notes. But there is a plenty of books, there are plenty of commentaries, and really just navigating through materials, it's quite difficult. And here it's much simpler, because you have, that's the paradox, the thick book or thick books, and you know that the answers are already there. So what helped me a lot, it was sharing the work and discussing the answers for mock exams, and indexing. That's for me, it was the best tool ever, just to prepare your own index with a number of pages, with information, and what you can find and where. It saves you a lot of time. I know that it is 90 seconds per question if you calculate it. Yeah. So if you will take from this 90 seconds, like 30 or 40 for just studying, you are left with really not enough time to read the question, understand the question, and answer properly. If you have a good index, searching the material is like within a seconds, and then you have a time for reading, recalling, thinking, answering. And of course, that you have questions that you will answer immediately, because they are pretty obvious. But some questions, they will keep you thinking. And the answers, they are so nuanced that finding the best answer in these circumstances sometimes is really a challenge. So for me, having a study buddy, and I can say hello, Natalie, right now, and having these indexes and my notes helped me a lot. That was 3 things that helped me to pass this exam.
And then I guess the third piece, obviously, we were talking about before, there is then going through the NCA process, which I understand, you're most of the way through. So again, some people, it takes take a similar kind of approach, right? That they come here, they do the paralegal program, they write the paralegal licensing exam, and then they're like, okay, well, now I feel I have enough Canadian knowledge of the law here that I'm going to go and either write my NCA exams or enroll in, I think, an LLM program and then write the exams after that. Maybe can you explain a bit more about the NCA process for anyone who's not very familiar, and how all that works, and a little update on your journey there, and what's left to finish.
So I don't know if we can share in the chat the addresses for the websites. It will work.
I think you could put it, and then I could put it as a comment or something on YouTube there that people can access.
Okay, so maybe I will start with that because that helps a lot. So if you are interested in being a lawyer, this is the very first website you should approach, as that's the main resource and information. The National Committee of Accreditation will have the on the website you will find the self-assessment tool, and you can find out if you can and if you should start the process or you're missing something. So here's the website, and then you just follow the instruction, which is, by the way, the most problematic thing as I remember from our courses. But you should follow the instructions, which documents you were providing by yourself, which documents should be provided directly by your university. So it's better to know in advance if your documents are still at the law school or they are already sent to the university archives and then should be retrieved from the archives. That was my case because I was graduated a long time ago. If you have some postgraduate studies, you should think if they are if it's good to provide the NCA with this information as well. And then you have to, wait for a moment. Right now, the process is faster than it was almost a year and a half ago. And NCA will send you the information, which what you should do. Should you take the LLM program, or you can take the take the exams from the topics that they are listed in your letter. I've got 6 exams to pass during my accreditation, and NCA gives you time frames for doing that. So I decided that I don't want to take the single lectures and take the exams. And for me, it makes more sense to take the LLM because it looks better in your CV. And if your potential new law firm is looking for a student, will have this information. Yes, that you have this Canadian education, that is also important. So I decided to take the LLM program at the Oxford Law School. I believe right now it's one of the few places when you can take the exams accredited by the NCA. You're getting enrolled to the university. And again, you are studying, passing exams, and don't forget to inform the NCA that hello, another semester ended. I just passed my exam. So one is passed. We have few more to be taken. And you have to remember to give this information, just to have to be sure that NCA has the current information about your status, that there is a progress. And at the end, when you passed all the exams, you're just informing the committee that you are done, that you finished, and you received the accreditation, which is the pass to the LSO to apply for the bar exam. And sounds simple, and it's not complicated. It takes a little bit of your time, energy, and unfortunately takes a little bit time from your families, because most of us, we have families, so they, they have to experience it with us. But again, the price is that you can take the exam and pass the exam. I'm sure that all the people who decide to take it, they are successful. I don't know the statistics, but I do believe that internationally trained lawyers, they are quite successful with the bar exams.
And again, in terms of those exams, in getting into that process, again, similar to the paralegal exams, except there's a barrister's and a solicitor. So I think the same. I mean, I'm not very familiar with how it's changed, but I think the same kind of format, just that there's two of them versus one of them, that I guess is coming up perhaps in the near future to do, right, for them. And then now if you do the LLM, does that mean you don't have to do any of the NCA challenge exams then, as long as you just said you keep informing the NCA of, hey, I finished another semester here and I was good, or what happens there?
If you met all the requirements, I don't think that I would have to pass the additional exam, because I that's why I decided to take the LLM. Like, just to go through the process, have the basic informations, and understanding on the topics that I had to get familiar with, and that's it. I don't. It's the exam. It's, I guess, I'm sorry. This I didn't check, so I cannot be a reliable source of information right now. But I guess with my LLM, I don't have to take the additional exam. My understanding is that after taking the last exam from my list, I'll receive the accreditation and I'll be ready to apply to the LSO for the for exam. I have to check it.
Yeah, I think it sounds correct there, but again, we can always just double check there for anyone listening. As an option, as opposed to then writing all of the exams. I hear like 6, 7, 9 different exams you'd have to do if you didn't have that LLM, which again, through self-study and getting ready for those, a different thing to have in place. Now, you had mentioned the Canadian education, and we've talked about Canadian experience and work, and again, you were sharing about you're not coming back to zero, given all this knowledge you have, or in your case 20 plus years of practice experience, well versed in the laws of whatever your home country is. But there is a sense of feeling kind of overwhelmed or frustrated with a lot of internationally trained lawyers, in terms of, again, I think I shared with you, I had a student today in class, and they said, look, I've been practicing law in my home country for all these years, and how am I going to be a competitive candidate for some of these jobs, where doesn't shine through as much, because people are not sure what that all means, right? And maybe you can share kind of your experience. I remember on LinkedIn you would be like, look at what these posts are saying and how it's discriminatory, and any advice you have for, the supports that NCA students and internationally trained lawyers have. I know, there's communities there, of course, but what would you say to someone that's kind of going through that and frustrated with, you know, uh, their skills not being seen in the same light, just because it's Canada, and not from their home country?
Um, so maybe it will sound a little bit, like um, something obvious, but our frustration won't help us. What will help us is the strong belief that we are exactly valuable, like it's on the same level as Canadian lawyers. There is nothing that makes us worse. As I said, there are many things that makes us a little bit more competitive. You can bring much more to your law firm. You can be much better employee, younger lawyer, because, for example, you can bring new clients. They are speaking your language, that they feel better if they have a person of the same cultural background or ethnicity, or they can share their fears, or they they can say openly, I just don't get it. I don't get the system. Just help me understand it. So I shouldn't, we shouldn't be frustrated. And as you mentioned, yes, I'm quite vocal on my LinkedIn, as I called myself several times enfant terrible of LinkedIn and, lawyering in Ontario. So what can I say? I can recommend all my colleagues another network created by international lawyers who went through exactly the same experience. And it doesn't mean that you have to face all the obstacles. What will help you? What will help you? People will tell you what to do, what not to do, what is easier. For example, they will suggest you maybe you should change your approach towards your studies. Maybe there are ways to study wiser, not harder. Maybe they are ways to trick the system. Maybe there are other lawyers who have open positions for people like you, and they will be happy having an international trained lawyer. By the way, I can see a huge new movement right now, initiated by ITLs, and people stop treat each other as a competition, and they start to see the value in helping, supporting, cooperation. Like, this is something new. This is something interesting. And this grassroots movement of people who, they face this nasty aspect of being a lawyer here or starting as a lawyer here, that they want to help each other, and they are open for newcomers, and they decided that they will start something new, okay, give something fresh, and this is amazing. This is amazing. I think that we are facing something really fascinating, and this a little bit post-colonial, conservative Canadian way of being a lawyer will change because of those wonderful people who are coming with their knowledge, with their extra experience, and their energy to change. That's wonderful. That's something amazing. Like I cannot I don't remember. I can't recall the situation from my entire professional life that I could see something similar. Maybe, after when the war in Ukraine started, and in Poland we had suddenly 1,000 of people coming, and also lawyers. They start to think how to help our colleagues from Ukraine, and they reshaped the system, and they opened a little bit more, and they could started to see the value in diversity. And this is also the situation right now in Ontario, and I believe in entire Canada, because it's not a specific situation only in Ontario, but I believe in other provinces as well. And it's worth to keep your eyes open and to follow, people and hashtags on LinkedIn, just to know better what is going on. Where is the, where the change is going? Who is the person who would like to, initiate the change? Who is the person who is not afraid to speak for others? Who is the person who trace, for example, all those job announcements with Canadian experience, which shouldn't exist anymore, and that unfortunately do exist. So if you are just at the beginning of your path in Canada, just keep your eyes open. Just if you will find me on Facebook, I'll be happy to accept your invitation, and you will see what's going on. Like, there are a lot of things, and it's really fascinating. I think that the system is changing right now in unprecedented way. I just can't find other way to describe it, but it's interesting.
So perfect. So Martyna, thanks so much for taking the time and joining me and sharing kind of all that knowledge about the various steps in coming in terms of your 2 decades there of practice and continuing to practice in Poland, as well as coming over here doing the paralegal program, completing it, graduating. I don't know if you're going to your convocation in a few weeks, and then afterwards going and writing your licensing exam, passing that, and now doing your LLM and going through the steps there to become licensed as a lawyer here, in addition to your paralegal license in Ontario, and then continuing there to advocate and help those in the NCA community, and certainly this is a valuable asset as well here today. So I wanted you to close there. If you have any final words of wisdom, for all of the different steps that you've gone through there, to kind of wrap up for anyone listening who may be going through those same steps, right? Thinking about coming to Canada and how their law license or their law practice from overseas is going to be viewed, whether it's starting a paralegal program or going through it, or preparing for the licensing exam, or an LLM, or all of that. I don't know if there's a way to encapsulate that, generally, or in specific advice for them. But any final words of wisdom, Martyna?
Words of wisdom. So I repeat myself. We are not starting from zero. Nobody is being an internationally trained lawyer here is not starting on the entry level. We are not. And if you will start to think in these categories, it will be easier. And second thing, there are many people willing and happy to help you. Just have to look around to find the information on LinkedIn. There are many of us happy to help you, really. And the last thing is that being a lawyer and a paralegal in Ontario is not the downgrade, not at all. It gives you better understanding and knowledge. You can practice in a smaller area, and you might be very happy and successful with that. And if you want more, you have beautiful background to to reach for more and study and enter the law school and prepare yourself for L1 exam.
Perfect. So once again, thanks so much for taking the time and joining us. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. All the best. Take care.
Thank you very much and goodbye.